Well, good evening. I'm Alan Jackson, and welcome to Nashville. It's getting easier to figure out why there's so much confusion across the country when I look at what's really going on versus how the national media puts it out. Well, here's an example. Jeffrey Epstein has been mentioned 4 times as often as the revelations about how former President Obama and his CIA and FBI chiefs rewrote intelligence information to make it look like President-elect Trump was working with the Russians. CNN and MSNBC mentioned Epstein more than 8,000 times. In the same period, they only mentioned what Obama did to try to take down Trump less than 2,000 times. But now caught in the public eye, Obama's former FBI director, Andrew McCabe, he went on the offense. Listen to what he said.
Tulsi Gabbard is simply an opportunist in this play, right? Her star is falling. Her analysis was thrown out the window on Iran. She embarrassed herself with that somewhat bizarre video about nuclear weapons in Japan. And so she's using this as an opportunity to get herself back into favor with the White House. That's my personal assessment. But, you know, this seems to be kind of the State of the Union for what we're in right now.
Well, former Senator and Ambassador Scott Brown has been in politics for a long time. He's running for New Hampshire's Senate seat now. Welcome back, Scott.
Hey, Alan, good evening to you and all your viewers.
Well, former President Obama says the evidence that he, Brennan, and Comey weaponized intelligence is just a distraction. Well, it sure seems like more than a distraction to me, does it to you?
Yeah, listen, I'm not a big fan of Andrew McCabe. Bottom line is, we need to have full disclosure in these. I'm glad these things are coming out for sure. These are the people that cried Russia, 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 and it diminished the president's first administration. He was always on defense and really didn't give him the credit that he was due on all the things that he was doing. And I'm glad he's there now, obviously fighting back and to try to belittle what Tulsi Gabbard's doing is just typical. They try to criticize the source instead of looking at the actual issue, which is, did he or did he not? And it seems clear by the evidence that there was something going on that shouldn't have been going on, and they need to stop that sort of thing.
They're looking for anything new in the Epstein story. The Wall Street Journal put out what they called an exclusive about a happy birthday note that President Trump supposedly sent long before he was in politics. Is that significant enough to drive 4 times more coverage than a president, in this case Barack Obama, who weaponized intelligence? Seems a little out of balance to me.
Yeah, listen, once again, these people, the Russia, 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 that hoax, they're pushing that narrative because President Trump's on a roll. Bottom line is, look what he's doing now with doing trade deals. Obviously, what he did with Iran, bombing it and getting rid of that bully, and bringing a whole host of countries to the table to basically put America first, which is a good thing. So they're the ones that don't want to talk about all the great things that President Trump's doing. So they're going to continue with a kind of a new Russia, Russia, Russia thing.
I want to ask you about another example of how the media tries to set the agenda. This morning, NBC said the Epstein story was following the president everywhere. Well, the truth is, Epstein had nothing to do with the big economic deal the president struck with the European Union. But reporters shouted out a question about Epstein instead. So did it follow him, or did the network keep it going by bringing it up? Is that how they do it?
Yeah, listen, they'll just throw it out there, see what sticks, and then do the sound bites. I mean, everyone's kind of used to it. Bottom line, and what he did yesterday with the EU deal is amazing. I mean, now you have Japan, Vietnam, the Philippines, now the EU. I'll tell you what, China better come to the table very quickly. They're going to be left outside cold. This is a very big deal. The fact that they're buying our weapons, they're buying our natural gas, so they don't depend on Russia. And remember, President Trump told them when he was I think it was at the EU or wherever he was talking, in his first term, hey, by the way, you got to step back from your dependence on Russian oil and gas because, they're going to basically control you. And he was absolutely right. I agreed with him then. I agree with him now. But this is about access. We've talked about this before. This is obviously about trade imbalance, but it's about access into markets that we have not been able to get into. And I commend him for doing it. I think it's huge. It's huge.
Well, the deal with the European Union was big news. People have been skeptical about what's going on with the economy, but it sure looks like the president is getting his way with just about everyone, except for the Chinese so far. But how's that playing with the people of New Hampshire?
Well, it's a big deal. Obviously, I just paid what, 252 with my BJ's card, which is like Costco or Sam's down your way, and that's per gallon, and it's obviously a major savings down from what when I first got home. It was upside down, $5, $6, $7 a gallon. Obviously, the border's secure. That affects our northern border. The things that he's doing when men and boys and women and girls sports, crushing the dreams of young ladies. That press conference when he did that was fantastic. It just really showed how important young ladies and young women are in today's society, especially in sports. There's so many things that he's doing, that what he did with Iran, people get it. And in New Hampshire, I'm running against a guy that basically is upside down on all those issues, believes in men and boys and women's sports, didn't give the president or the airmen that flew the mission any credit whatsoever. Say, oh, you need to go to Congress for approval. No, Obama didn't do that when he went after bin Laden. He dropped 26,000 bombs. Kennedy didn't do it in the Bay of Pigs. No, he doesn't. He's doing exactly what he should be doing, and that's protecting our country's interests and protecting Israel, quite honestly.
Well, Scott, I'm in Nashville, but what's the biggest issue in New Hampshire these days? The economy, the border? What do people care the most about?
Well, the border obviously is important. What they want to make sure, and with those Bedford and Amherst moms, it is about the men and boys and women and girls sport, protecting our young women and young athletes to be able to do their jobs and fulfill their dreams and get their scholarships. That's a big deal. Obviously, the economic issues, as I just referenced, the price of gas. I just went shopping again today. I do all the shopping, I have forever because my wife buys junk all the time. But, eggs are down, beef is down. There's a lot of great signs. Is it going to take a little bit of time? Yeah. They say, oh, tariffs are going to make everything go up. Well, basically, we heard that a lot of the foreign goods, the tariffs on those foreign goods, it's actually down. U.S. goods on U.S.-made products is going up. So is there going to be an adjustment period? A little bit, but we're seeing that it's kind of flatlining. And if the Fed would reduce interest rates, we would have all cylinders going on that big engine.
Well, Scott, please stay with us for another segment. I've got some other issues we'd like to cover. In the meantime, if you'd like to send in your thoughts or opinion of what we're discussing, I'd love to hear from you. Just go to ajnow.com and hit the button to send me an email. We'll be right back. I'd like to extend a personal invitation to join us for our Culture and Christianity Conference. It's September the 19th and 20th on our campus here at World Outreach Church, just outside of Nashville. We've chosen 3 specific topics to explore with a wonderful group of guests. We're going to talk about the church and our expected impact in this culture, the media and their impact in our culture, and then finally, our health, how we can be healthy in the midst of all these competing voices we're hearing. The real goal is how we take our faith and integrate it in our world so we have better lives, stronger families, and strengthen our nation. Join us for Culture and Christianity here in Murfreesboro. We're back now with candidate Scott Brown, the former senator and U.S. ambassador. I'd like to go through some of the other priorities and what you're hearing from the folks you speak with as you're campaigning. Illegal immigration was a big issue in New England last year, along with the fentanyl that came with it. What are you hearing about the ICE efforts to stop the bad guys out there?
Well, it depends where you live. In New Hampshire here, Governor Ayotte and the legislature basically signed legislation to allow them to work with ICE. We don't have any sanctuary cities in New Hampshire, but in bordering states, it's a big deal. Massachusetts is like upside down on that. It's just spending billions to formally house people that are here illegally, but not working with our ICE agents and federal law enforcement officials to basically get even the ones in jail. I mean, they're in jail. And so you're going to make the citizens pay for them in jail? No, just get them the heck out of the country. Give them to ICE, get them out of the country. And, we'll talk later, like the president said, about certain sectors that may, have earned an opportunity. But what they're doing is upside down. But in New Hampshire, people are deeply concerned about getting those criminal illegals out of here. We're blessed that in our cities we got strong mayors who are doing. Jay Ruiz in Manchester is doing a great job. A lot of the crime and veterans are now housed who are on the streets. A lot of the crime is gone. The fentanyl and drug use, the police have full authority and full cooperation with the mayor and the governor, and that matters. And I don't understand why the American citizens and the politicians, especially the Democrats, period, are fighting with our ICE agents instead of fighting to get these criminal illegals out of here. Am I in a different planet or something? It's just crazy.
Well, Scott, I always appreciate the common sense you bring to the political discussion. The Boston mayor has made a point of pushing back on the efforts to arrest the immigrants involved in crimes. She's even gone so far as to compare ICE agents who wear masks to neo-Nazi groups. Listen to this.
I don't know of any police department that routinely wears masks. We know that there are other groups that routinely wear masks. NSC 131 routinely wears masks.
Well, she's clearly in the same political club as the LA mayor and the socialist nominee for New York's mayor. But I'd like to know whether you think she has any following outside of the most liberal sections of Boston. Does she?
Yeah, listen, it's okay, though, for the criminals and the protesters and all the people that are trying to hurt the ICE agents to wear masks. But God forbid we protect the families and the livelihood of these heroes who are doing their jobs, protecting our country and fulfilling their oath and basically following the laws. If you don't like the laws, then go and elect somebody, who's going to change them. They're following the laws. They have the court authority to do exactly what they're doing. And a lot of these criminal illegals basically already have removal orders. They've already been adjudicated. They've already had their due process. They've had their hearings. Let's get them the heck out of here. Listen, I think it's very important to protect the identity of our men and women who are doing their jobs, because the doxing and the threats to them and their families is very real, as you've seen by the ambush in Texas, and a police officer just killed a few days ago. Yeah, she's up. She's just I can't imagine who would vote for her. I hope Josh Kraft wins, Bob Kraft's son, because you need change in that city.
Well, let's move to the economy. Well, there are a lot of signs that things are getting better. Some parts of the country still seem to be in kind of a holding pattern about spending money or trying to buy a new house. You saw President Trump trying to push the Fed chief to lower interest rates when he took that tour of the construction going on there. There's now some chatter on Wall Street that the Fed might start lowering rates at least a quarter of a point, perhaps even a half a point by the fall. How would that be received where you're at?
Well, if you look at all the other central banks throughout the world, we are the highest interest rates still. They've already lowered them. So what's the problem? When I think about that situation, I think it's clearly political. He doesn't like being bullied. That's obviously Powell. He doesn't like the name calling. He doesn't like being called a knucklehead. But what he's doing in terms of this issue, even some of his board members say, yeah, we should be doing this because that directly affects the ability for people to take out mortgages. And that's a good thing. And if we can just lower the rates to a proper number, I'm not saying go down to 0 or 4 or 3. I'm talking about let's get it competitive with the rest of the world at least. And then because of all the money that's coming in and all the good things that are happening, do you think we could maybe, be a little creative and not keep following, everybody else? Let's be leaders in this regard. And I think it'll jumpstart the housing market and enable young people, especially who want to buy homes, the ability to do so at a very good rate. And ultimately, my people say, well, what about the debt and deficit? Yeah, that's my number one issue, is our national debt. I'm hoping that interest rates all around the board will ultimately go lower, and then we can refinance that debt and get a better rate to help save money there as well.
Well, the people of New York City are trying to figure out if they really want a socialist for mayor. The media certainly put a spotlight on him, but I think a lot of that is because he's stirring the pot, which creates a lot of clicks. I want to ask if you see any real movement towards socialism.
I apologize. No. There are people, listen, free. Who doesn't want free? Yeah, I'll sign up right now. But it comes with a price. And that price is basically at the jeopardy of people who are more affluent, obviously, in New York City. What did he say? Let's tax the white neighborhoods. Free buses, free this. How's he going to do it? Free grocery stores. We've seen those happen already in our country, and they're basically going bankrupt. We've seen them happen in other countries. The problem, he's overseas right now he was married a couple of months ago. Now he's on his honeymoon. He's got security guards with guns protecting him, yet he wants to basically get rid of the police and have the community organizers or whatever, counselors, be in charge of responding. Imagine if that happened yesterday in New York City. Oh, excuse me, sir, can you put down your gun? Come on. A police officer lost his life trying to protect other people, and others lost their lives. So yeah, the problem is that there's basically 4 people in there. Someone ultimately I think should drop out. I'm not sure who at this point. I think it's still a little early, but I think the varnish and the tarnish is there, and we're going to kind of peel back the potato, peel back the onion, and see what's under there. And I think people are going to say, yeah, the guy's a flim-flammer.
Well, before we go, you're trying to flip a blue seat to a red in New Hampshire. Now, you did that once successfully in Massachusetts, and that wasn't just a blue seat. It was a Kennedy-held seat that had been blue for nearly 50 years. Give us a quick update. How are you doing so far?
Yeah, listen, it feels like 2010 and that magical moment. I'm looking to make history again. You can go to scottbrown.com and get involved. $1 is a bumper sticker. You can go up to whatever amount you want, basically. But this is a real issue. And listen, if North Carolina, Georgia, and Michigan don't pan out and we lose the House, this could determine who's going to basically control the Senate. And I think that's very important to protect the things that have been accomplished to date and the things that we can accomplish moving forward. And that's why I'm running. There's a guy running who's basically makes AOC look like Rush Limbaugh, and I don't want him to be the senator for 30 or 40 years.
Well, Scott, it's always great to have you on. I look forward to talking again soon. Stay in touch.
Thank you. Thank you. God bless you and your viewers. Thanks.
Well, in a moment, my thoughts on the hope ahead. And later, you get the stage when we read out the emails you've sent us. I'll be right back. Hey, I want to give you a personal invitation to join my podcast, Culture and Christianity.
For a person to think that the Bible is not political, you don't know the Bible.
We're trying to understand how to take our faith outside the walls of the church and live it out in the marketplace.
He will show you what to do, whether it's in our communities, in our country, or other places in the world.
So I brought in some friends, some people that are trying to do this.
How could anyone call themselves Christian and be pro-choice? Is beyond my comprehension.
But I think he wanted them open and in need of him every day.
We have been living through a season of unprecedented deception, propaganda, manipulation.
Everybody says, Israel is attacking schools in the Gaza Strip.
I want to be a part of seeing culture and Christianity intersect. Hope you enjoy the podcast. Hey, we are living through a time of confusion, manipulation, and even deception. We saw congressmen and senators stand in front of cameras on a daily basis and say Trump is a Russian agent. We saw Obama's Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, and the former director of the CIA, John Brennan, repeatedly say that the Russians helped Donald Trump win in the 2016 election. And the legacy media happily ran with that narrative with wall-to-wall coverage. Well, now the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, has released classified documents revealing that the Obama-era FBI and CIA officials were directed to take unverified intelligence and shape it into a false storyline. And the legacy media has largely ignored the truth. Now, I was recently asked if the media tells lies for so long that they don't even know they're lying anymore. It could be a legitimate explanation, but it's more likely that their moral compasses have become broken by either living their lives in the absence of God or by walking too far into the darkness. See, if a person has no moral compass, they'll say whatever they need to say that's self-serving. They think of life in terms of how do I get what I want? How do I get my objective? How do I get my agenda accomplished? Don't even think in terms of whether it's true or false. You just want to get what you want. Well, I would suggest to you that deception lies in a refusal to acknowledge the truth is a spiritual conflict more than a political one. Our goal for this program is to serve you by presenting you with the truth, providing a biblical worldview which doesn't shift based on the whims of culture. Tell a friend, spread the word. If we'll do that, I promise there's more reasons for hope than despair. We'll be right back with your emails. Thank you for spending a few minutes with us this evening. If you ever miss a live broadcast, remember you can always go to ajnow.com. They're archived there. There's even a link where you can send us an email if you'd like to. They're a highlight of the program. Janice W. from Florida emailed, 600,000 children lost on this side of the border. It's almost unbelievable. How can we pray in a helpful way for these lost ones? Well, Janice, I can tell you what I've been doing. I've been asking for God's grace and mercy for those children. I've been praying that the truth will be told so that they can be discovered and that what's been hidden in the darkness will be brought to the light. We didn't lose 600,000 children without a lot of adults being involved in that process. I want to do more than find the children. I want to find the perpetrators that think trafficking in children is okay. It's not, and it's got to be stopped. Randy from California said, I watched your show with your guest Nelson Bolito. Since I live in a sanctuary state, he mentioned writing to your representatives. How can we hold the governor and mayor accountable for trying to keep illegal immigrants here in our country? I appreciate all you do, and may God bless you. Well, Randy, ultimately, I know it's the ballot box, which in California can be a bit intimidating, but I think every time you use your voice, write a letter, make a phone call, it adds to the momentum for the truth. You know, I'm reminded of Daniel, the book in the Old Testament that bears his name. He's a slave in a foreign country. He makes such a commitment to prayer that it causes him to be condemned to the lion's den. And when he's thrown into the lion's den, the lions don't happen to be hungry that day. And the result is the Sultan writes an edict that the God of Daniel be worshiped across the empire. You may think your voice is small and it'll even result in some persecution, but if you will use it for what's right, God gets engaged and that changes the equation. Kathy from Arizona said, I'm always amazed when traveling that few, if any, hotels, motels, or resorts I use offer TBN. Therefore, I'm so grateful for your weekly reviews. All the episodes are recorded at home, but a challenge to catch up on the ones I miss while I'm on a trip. Well, I can make a suggestion. You can get our app for Alan Jackson Ministries or a YouTube app, and you can see the programs there. It's available even if the hotels aren't cooperating. Thank God for technology. I appreciate your time with us this evening. I'm Alan Jackson, and you have a wonderful evening.